The moment I saw those two pink lines on the pregnancy test, my world felt complete. Amanda and I had been trying for almost a year, and now our dream was coming true. My family was thrilled too, especially my brother Jackson, who was already planning to be the cool uncle. Everything was perfect until Sophia joined our marketing team. She seemed friendly at first, professional even, but something in her eyes made me uneasy. I never imagined she would destroy everything I loved. Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from and click that subscribe button if you want to hear how I rebuilt my life from absolute zero. Amanda and I met in college during our sophomore year. We were both studying marketing, sharing 3 classes together before I finally worked up the courage to ask her out. Our first date was at this little Italian restaurant just off campus where we talked until the owner politely informed us they needed to close. 5 years of marriage later, and we still went back to that same restaurant for our anniversary each year. Getting pregnant had been a challenge. We tried for almost a year with each negative test crushing our spirits a little more. When Amanda finally conceived, the doctor warned us about potential complications due to her low blood pressure. We took every precaution, and I made sure she rested properly while still maintaining her part-time job teaching art at the community center. My family adored Amanda. My parents Thomas and Margaret treated her like the daughter they never had. Jackson, my younger brother by 3 years, saw her as the sister he always wanted. We had dinner at my parents' suburban home every Sunday without fail. Mom would cook her famous pot roast while Dad regaled us with stories from his dental practice. In my family, I was always considered the golden boy. First to graduate college, first to land a prestigious job, first to get married. My parents never explicitly said it, but their pride was evident in how they introduced me to their friends, always mentioning my latest accomplishments. At Anderson & Powell Marketing, I had recently been promoted to senior marketing executive after landing the Peterson account, a major automotive manufacturer that had boosted our revenue by 30%. My colleagues respected me management, valued my input, and I took pride in mentoring junior staff members who joined our team. The promotion came with longer hours, but the increased salary was worth it. Amanda and I were saving for a larger house in Oakwood District, known for its excellent schools and family-friendly community. With a baby on the way, we wanted everything to be perfect. Then Sophia Taylor joined our team. Her resume was impressive, having worked for our main competitor for 5 years. Initially, our interactions were strictly professional. She was competent, creative, and brought fresh perspectives to our campaigns. But within weeks, something changed. It started with excessive compliments during meetings. While appreciation for good work was normal in our office, Sophia would focus solely on my contributions, often dismissing equally valuable input from others. She began finding reasons to work late, when I did, always choosing the desk closest to mine in our open office layout. The physical contact began subtly. A hand on my shoulder while looking at my computer screen, sitting unnecessarily close during lunch breaks, brushing against me in the hallway despite plenty of space to walk. Each time, I would casually create distance without making a scene. I mentioned my pregnant wife in virtually every conversation with Sophia, showing Amanda's ultrasound pictures and discussing our plans for the nursery. Yet Sophia seemed undeterred, her attention becoming increasingly uncomfortable. The text started innocently enough. Work-related questions that could have waited until morning, sent at 9 or 10 at night. Gradually, they became more personal. Questions about my weekend plans. Comments about how she loved my presentation style. I showed every message to Amanda, wanting complete transparency. Amanda initially laughed it off. She joked about Sophia having an office crush and trusted me completely, but things took a strange turn on our anniversary. While celebrating at our special Italian restaurant, I noticed Sophia at a corner table alone. When I pointed her out to Amanda, she was gone. The coincidence felt deliberate and unsettling. Rumors began circulating around the office. Colleagues gave me knowing smiles or questioning looks. I requested to be moved to different projects, but management dismissed my concerns, suggesting I should be flattered by the attention from such an attractive coworker. Their response left me feeling unheard and increasingly anxious. The situation with Sophia escalated beyond anything I could have imagined. She created fake text message screenshots, suggesting we were having an affair complete with intimate details and plans to meet at hotels. She photoshopped images from office events to make it appear we were inappropriately close. Most disturbingly, she created a fake email account in my name, sending herself romantic messages that she would open and read in the office break room. Sophia began telling colleagues about our supposed secret relationship, sharing fabricated intimate details that made me uncomfortable to even hear about. She would cry in the break room, claiming I had led her on with promises to leave my pregnant wife. I denied everything, but as the saying goes, a lie repeated often enough begins to sound like truth. The accusations reached Amanda through Jessica, her friend, who worked in our accounting department. Jessica reluctantly showed Amanda the evidence one afternoon while I was in a client meeting. The screenshots, the emails, the photos all presented a compelling but completely fabricated narrative of betrayal. I received a frantic call from Amanda while driving back from the meeting. Her voice was unrecognizable, broken by sobs and accusations. I tried explaining, begging her to wait until I got home so we could talk properly. By the time I rushed through our front door, 20 minutes later, she had already called my parents. Amanda was 6 months pregnant, her belly swollen with our child, face streaked with tears, as she showed me the evidence Jessica had shared. No matter how I tried to explain about Sophia's concerning behavior or the fabricated nature of the evidence, Amanda refused to believe me. The trust we had built over years seemed to evaporate in minutes. While we argued, the doorbell rang. My parents and Jackson arrived, their faces grim with disappointment. Mom hugged Amanda protectively, while Dad demanded an explanation. I tried telling them about Sophia, about the fake evidence, about my complete innocence, but their minds were already made up. The conversation started civilly enough, but quickly descended into accusations. My father called me a disgrace to the family name. He said I was worse than his brother, who had abandoned his family 30 years ago. The comparison stung deeply, as Uncle Richard had always been a forbidden topic in our home. What happened next remains the most shocking moment of my life. My mother, who had never so much as raised her voice to me, slapped me across the face with such force that my ears rang. Before I could recover, Jackson punched me in the stomach, knocking the wind out of me. As I doubled over, gasping for breath, my father joined in. A man who had taught me to never solve problems with violence was now raining blows on my back and shoulders. I did not fight back, partly from shock and partly from a lifetime of respect for my parents that even this moment could not erase. Through a haze of pain, I heard my mother say the words that would echo in my mind for years to come. "You are no longer our son. We have no son who would betray his pregnant wife." They left with Amanda, who refused to even look at me as they guided her out the door. I remained on the floor of our living room, surrounded by the photos and mementos of what had been a happy life just hours before. I spent that night alone in our half-empty apartment. While I was at work the next day, Amanda returned with Jackson to take her clothes, her art supplies, and several pieces of furniture we had chosen together. All that remained was a text saying she was staying with my parents and would communicate through her lawyer. The physical damage was substantial. Bruises covered my torso, and a visit to the urgent care clinic confirmed a fractured rib. I called in sick to work for a week, unable to face the office gossip, while dealing with the physical and emotional pain. On the 8th day, divorce papers were delivered to my door. The divorce proceedings were brutal. Amanda claimed emotional abuse and infidelity, supported by Sophia's fabricated evidence. To my shock and heartbreak, my entire family testified against my character. My parents, who had praised me my entire life, now claimed I had a history of dishonesty and manipulation. Jackson described me as selfish and untrustworthy, recounting twisted versions of childhood incidents to support his claims. My lawyer recommended settlement after reviewing the mounting evidence against me. Fighting would only prolong the pain and likely result in an even worse outcome. I lost our house in the settlement. The court granted Amanda full custody of our unborn child without even requiring a paternity test. The child support payments ordered would consume nearly half my monthly income. The professional fallout was equally devastating. Human Resources conducted an investigation, during which Sophia played the victim so convincingly that even I almost believed her. Colleagues who had once respected me now avoided eye contact in hallways. Clients requested different account managers uncomfortable with the allegations surrounding me. Within 2 months, I was demoted to a junior position with a substantial pay cut. The official reason was restructuring, but the message was clear. 6 weeks later, I was laid off completely with the same restructuring excuse. Without references from my longest employment, finding a new position in our relatively small marketing community proved impossible. Social media became a source of constant pain. Posts showed Amanda living happily with my family. The birth announcement for my daughter Lily appeared on my feed through a mutual friend. I was not notified, not invited to the hospital, not acknowledged as her father in any way. Through those same mutual connections, I learned that Jackson and Amanda had begun dating just 3 months after our divorce was finalized. Photos showed Jackson holding Lily, playing the role of father to my child. The betrayal from my brother cut deeper than any physical wound. Friends I had known for years chose Amanda's side in the split. Their logic was simple. If my entire family believed I was guilty, there must be truth to the accusations. Overnight, I became a social pariah, uninvited from gatherings, removed from group chats, unfriended, and blocked online. The financial impact was catastrophic. The divorce settlement drained my savings. Child support for a child. I was not allowed to see strained my already limited resources. Without a job, my credit was destroyed. After missing 2 months of rent, I received an eviction notice. For 3 weeks, I lived in my car, parking in different locations each night to avoid attracting attention. I showered at a 24-hour gym and kept my remaining possessions in the trunk. One night, parked at a scenic overlook above the city, I contemplated ending it all. The thought of jumping brought a momentary sense of peace. While sitting on the guardrail, I absent-mindedly pulled out my wallet and found the ultrasound photo of Lily I had kept hidden. Her tiny form, barely recognizable as human, reminded me that regardless of what Amanda or my family believed I was a father, somewhere in the city below was a little girl with my blood running through her veins. I stepped back from the edge. I took odd jobs to survive. Washing dishes at restaurants, moving furniture for a local company, stocking shelves overnight at a grocery store. Eventually, I saved enough for the security deposit on a studio apartment in the worst part of town. The building had roach problems, unreliable heat, and neighbors who fought loudly at all hours, but it was shelter. From a distance, I watched my family celebrate holidays without me. Through the social media accounts of mutual acquaintances, I saw Thanksgiving dinners, Christmas mornings, and birthday celebrations. I learned that Jackson and Amanda married on what would have been our 6th anniversary, a deliberate choice that confirmed the vindictive nature of their relationship. After a particularly difficult night learning about their wedding, I finally accepted that my old life was completely gone. While watching the sunrise from my cracked apartment window after a sleepless night, I realized I had 2 choices. I could continue living as a ghost on the periphery of my former life, or I could leave everything behind and start fresh. The next day, I purchased a bus ticket to Seattle, as far across the country as I could afford to go. Seattle welcomed me with its famously rainy embrace. With my marketing background, I found work as an entry-level assistant at a small agency. The pay was barely enough to cover my portion of rent in the tiny apartment I shared with 2 roommates, both students at the local university who were rarely home. During my 3rd week in the city, I passed a community bulletin board advertising sliding scale therapy sessions. Dr. Eleanor Winters specialized in trauma and new beginnings, 2 things I desperately needed help with. Our weekly sessions became my anchor as I navigated life in a new city without family or friends. For the first 2 years, I refused to date or form close relationships. The trauma of betrayal had left deep scars, and I feared letting anyone close enough to hurt me again. Instead, I poured all my energy into rebuilding my career and creating stability. Slowly, I advanced from assistant to coordinator to manager. My new colleagues knew nothing of my past, judging me solely on my work ethic and results. 5 years after arriving in Seattle, I had saved enough to rent a small office space and launch my own agency, Phoenix Marketing. The name represented my desire to rise from the ashes of my former life. Starting with just 2 local clients, I built a reputation for integrity and creativity. By year 7, I employed 6 people and had a waiting list of potential clients. 10 years after leaving my hometown, I attended an industry conference in Chicago. During a networking lunch, I heard someone call my name. The voice was familiar, yet different, like a song played in a new key. I turned to find Natalie, Amanda's younger sister, standing behind me. At 30, she had the same honey blonde hair as Amanda, but her eyes were kinder, less judgmental. Our conversation was initially awkward. We made small talk about the conference, the speakers, the Chicago weather. Over coffee after the lunch, Natalie revealed why she had approached me. She had never believed the accusations. As a college student at the time of the incident, her opinion had been dismissed by the family, but she had quietly questioned the narrative for years. Natalie told me about Sophia's breakdown 3 years after I left town. During a particularly bad episode, Sophia had confessed to fabricating the entire affair, admitting her obsession and the elaborate steps she had taken to destroy my marriage. The family had dismissed her confession as the ravings of an unstable mind. Amanda and Jackson, now firmly established as a couple, with Lily calling him Daddy, had too much invested in the lie to acknowledge the truth. Against her family's wishes, Natalie had sought me out. She had followed my career through industry publications and social media, waiting for an opportunity to connect. Her revelation both validated and devastated me. The confirmation of my innocence brought relief, but the knowledge that some family members might have harbored doubts, yet did nothing, intensified the sense of betrayal. We exchanged email addresses before parting ways. Our correspondence began professionally but quickly became more personal. Natalie shared updates about my daughter Lily, now 10 years old. She was artistic like her mother, but had my analytical mind and love of puzzles. Natalie sent photos covertly taken at family gatherings, giving me glimpses of the child I had never been allowed to know. Despite the complicated situation, Natalie and I developed a genuine connection. Our emails evolved into phone calls and eventually visits when her work as a travel photographer brought her to the West Coast. 12 years after losing everything, I found myself falling in love with the sister of the woman who had helped destroy my life. The full truth emerged when Sophia, now medicated and in therapy, sent a notarized letter confessing her fabrications. She detailed her obsession, the methods she used to create fake evidence, and her manipulation of office politics. The letter offered no excuses, only facts and a request for forgiveness I was not yet ready to give. Natalie stood firmly by me despite ultimatums from her family. When they discovered our relationship, she was temporarily disowned, experiencing a milder version of what I had endured years before. Rather than breaking us apart, their disapproval strengthened our bond. Natalie relocated to Seattle, establishing her photography business, while our relationship deepened into love, built on a foundation of honesty and mutual respect. 15 years after the divorce, I received an email from an address I did not recognize. The subject line read simply, "I think you are my real father." Lily, now a teenager with her mother's features, and my inquisitive nature had found inconsistencies in family stories. While researching a school project on family history, she discovered old news clippings about Sophia's mental health episodes and subsequent confessions. We met secretly at a cafe while she was in Seattle on a school trip. The girl who approached my table was a perfect blend of Amanda and me, with her mother's delicate features, but my eyes and expressions. Our conversation was tentative at first, but grew more comfortable as we discovered shared interests in photography, jazz, music, and true crime podcasts. Lily revealed her growing resentment toward Jackson and Amanda for the lies they had maintained throughout her life. She had confronted them with the evidence she found only to be dismissed as misunderstanding adult situations. Her determination to know the truth, to know me, touched something deep in my soul that I thought had died years ago. Together with Natalie and Lily, we planned a formal meeting with the family. 16 years after being disowned, I returned to my hometown. We met in a private room at a local restaurant, neutral territory for all involved. Seeing Amanda after all those years was strange. The passionate love I once felt had been replaced by a dull recognition, like looking at a familiar landmark in a town you no longer call home. Jackson had gained weight and lost hair. My parents had aged considerably, their faces etched with lines that had not been there when I left. The initial hostility was palpable. That On nearer, Jackson tried to have me removed from the restaurant. My father sat silently, arms crossed defensively. Amanda could not meet my eyes. Only my mother showed signs of emotion, her hands trembling as she clutched her purse. I presented Sophia's confession and other evidence Lily had gathered. Amanda was the first to break, tears streaming down her face as she admitted to knowing the truth for years. Sophia had contacted her directly after her treatment began, but Amanda had already built a life with Jackson. Admitting the mistake would mean acknowledging their relationship was built on a terrible lie. My parents struggled visibly with their role in the situation. My mother whispered an apology so quiet I barely heard it. My father cleared his throat several times, but could not form words. The weight of their actions, the 16 years of lost relationship with their son and granddaughter, seemed to physically press them into their seats. Jackson alone refused to acknowledge any wrongdoing. He maintained that regardless of Sophia's lies, I had abandoned my family by leaving town. His revisionist history painted him as the hero who stepped in to care for my abandoned wife and child. His delusion was so complete that arguing seemed pointless. In that moment, I realized something profound. I had come seeking some form of justice or closure, but what I found was freedom. Looking at these people who had once been the center of my world, I felt nothing but pity. I forgave them not for their sake, but for my own peace. I stood to leave without seeking their approval or reconciliation. As I reached the door, Lily announced she would be spending school breaks with me and Natalie. The declaration hung in the air as we left, the first of many choices she would make as she navigated her complicated family history. Natalie and I married in a small ceremony on the beach near our Seattle home. My colleagues, now friends who knew my whole story, stood beside us. Lily served as Natalie's maid of honor, her presence a bridge between past and future. We honeymooned in Japan, a country neither of us had visited, symbolic of our desire to create new memories untainted by the past. Over the following years, Lily began spending more time with us. She enrolled in the University of Washington to study psychology, inspired by her own family's dysfunction and her desire to help others navigate complex emotional situations. Our relationship developed slowly but meaningfully, building from cautious friendship to genuine father-daughter bond. Phoenix marketing continued to thrive, expanding to offices in Portland and San Francisco. My experience rebuilding my life from nothing became the foundation for speaking engagements about resilience and personal reinvention. I established a scholarship fund for children from broken families, turning my pain into purpose. Through it all, I learned that genuine strength comes from within. The approval and acceptance I once desperately sought from my family had never defined my worth. True family, I discovered, is defined by loyalty and truth, not blood or obligation. The people who stand beside you when the world turns against you are your real family. I found peace in forgiveness without requiring reconciliation. Some relationships cannot and should not be rebuilt. The family that disowned me and the wife who divorced me were no longer part of my life, but they no longer occupied space in my heart either. The anger that once consumed me had transformed into gratitude for the unexpected path that led me to true happiness. The most profound lesson came from losing everything. Only when all external markers of success and identity were stripped away did I discover who I truly was and what genuinely mattered. The home Natalie and I created, the relationship I built with Lily, and the business I grew from nothing all meant more because I had earned them twice. First through hard work, and then by surviving their loss and reclaiming my right to happiness. I sometimes wonder what your story is. Have you ever been falsely accused or lost everything important to you? How did you find the strength to rebuild? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more journeys of resilience and redemption. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that no matter how complete the destruction, you always have the power to rebuild something beautiful from the ashes.